Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first edition of Intuitive Eating Tips with Taylor. My name is Taylor. I am a nutrition expert, aka registered dietitian, and I coach women on how they can eat intuitively so they can finally feel in control around all of their favorite foods without feeling guilty for eating them, as well as create that balanced and healthy relationship with food that we're all striving for. So today's Intuitive Eating Tip with Taylor topic is what food guilt is, where it comes from, and what you can do to work through it and get rid of it. So first, let's talk about what food guilt is. So I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory, but I'll give you a couple examples. So food guilt, first and foremost, is the guilt that we feel towards any food choice we make. So for example, let's say you have a late night snack at 9 p.m. and you feel guilty for eating that snack because you ate it late at night. So that right there would be food guilt. Or let's say your coworker brings in donuts and you decide to have a donut and then you automatically feel guilty because you ate the donut. Again, pretty self-explanatory, but that right there is food guilt. So like I said, any guilt you feel towards any food choice you make. But one thing you might not know about food guilt is that it is not something we are born with. It is actually something we were taught growing up. So for example, or think about it actually, when you were a baby, you didn't feel guilty for being hungry or wanting to eat. You simply knew you were hungry and signaled to your mom or your dad, whoever else was taking care of you, that you're hungry and it's time to eat. And again, you didn't feel guilty for feeling that hunger. So that means as we got older and we're starting to pick up on things, we started to learn to feel guilty for eating food. And there are so many different ways that we can learn to feel guilty for eating food because diet culture is so loud in our society. So for example, you could have been taught to feel guilty for eating food very unintentionally by one of your parents. So I'm gonna use another example. Let's say when you were younger, your mom always told you, you have to eat your veggies before you eat your sweets or before your dessert. So right there, your mom, while she did not mean to, was already telling you that you cannot eat a sweet unless you eat something good, like a veggie. And then you automatically feel guilty for eating that sweet if you don't eat something healthy before it. And that goes with you and continues to go with you as you age and become an adult. So that might be why now you might feel guilty for eating sweets if you didn't eat something healthy or you didn't do something to earn it. Another example could be TV growing up. So there are so many shows I watched, especially during the pandemic, that I watched when I was in middle school or high school. And I realized how much they commented on the girls or the women's weight and what they were eating and everything like that. And just so much diet talk and so much shame around food when it came to women on the shows I used to watch growing up. So that is definitely probably another area where I personally learned to feel guilty for eating certain foods or for eating too much, and probably where a lot of us learned it as well growing up. Again, so many different places you can be taught food guilt growing up. Grocery store aisle checkout lanes, there's always the magazines there. Any kind of magazine you're reading is a really good one. Social media, of course, that's such a big one, especially now. So again, food guilt is something we are taught growing up. We get that idea as we grow up and get it from different places. And that is why now as adults, we still feel guilty sometimes for eating certain foods. But the really great thing about food guilt, and because it's something we are taught growing up, you can unteach yourself it or you can unlearn it. And I'm going to tell you exactly how you can do that here. So the first step you need to take to unlearn and stop feeling guilty for eating certain foods is to notice when you're feeling guilty. And the reason you need to do this is because that takes you to the next step. Once you notice you're feeling guilty for eating or making a certain food choice, you can then address to whatever food rule you're hanging on to. So let's go back to the example of eating a late night snack. So if you feel guilty for eating past a certain point late at night, when in reality you don't need to feel guilty for that, your body doesn't know the difference between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. It has no internal clock like that. But let's say you feel guilty for that, then that's probably a food rule that you're hanging on to. So your food rule is you can't eat late at night. So because that's something you feel guilty for, one, you notice it. 2, now you know the food rule. And again, the food rule is for this situation that you feel guilty for eating late at night. And then once you actually know what the food rule is, you can reframe it or tell yourself that that's no longer a food rule that you have. And just tell yourself that over and over again. And eventually that food rule will be no more and you will not feel guilty for eating late at night or whatever food rule that you are hanging on to. So that was my 3 tips on how you can get rid of your food guilt. Again, notice it, reframe it, and then make that new rule inside your head that you want it to be, or make it that no food rule, actually. I apologize. So no rules around food. Again, changing that rule that you noticed into a new one. So again, there you have it. That is what food guilt is, where it comes from, and what you can do to get rid of it. And there you have it for the very first ever edition of Intuitive Eating Tips with Taylor. Comment below, let me know what you think. Ask any questions you want, and look out next Wednesday for a brand new topic.